Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
Rodney, I think we need to do a fist bump. We've been doing this show 25 years.
26.
26.
Going on 26.
Going on 26.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and we do it year round. But once that first game week comes, I don't want to say butterflies. That sounds corny, but
You're excited.
I get juiced up.
Yeah.
Welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. The offseason is coming to a close. We're 4 days away from Alabama's season opener against the Florida State Seminoles at new look Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, totally refurbished. New side. There's some concern about the turf. It could rain down there this weekend. New look football team for Florida State. We're going to get into that in a moment. We'll break down the Seminoles. Rodney's been doing a deep dive into their roster. But let's start with Alabama. And the big news, of course, is Ty Simpson named the starting quarterback. We discussed this yesterday morning on my radio show. He is inexperienced in terms of game action, but he's not inexperienced in terms of being in this program. This is his fourth year with Coach Saban and Coach DeBoer. He's matured. He's got a degree. When he first got here, I think like most five stars, he was anxious to play. He wanted to play, but he stayed with it. And now you feel good for him, and you feel better than I think you would if he were a first-year starter that had only 1 or 2 years of experience and had not been around the program. That's not the case.
Yeah, and look, Gary, I think it's really played out perfectly for him to this point because I think the wait has been good for Ty. Again, I said this a couple of weeks ago. He played at a really small school, 2A school in Tennessee. Again, not bad competition, but certainly not the elite high school competition. And I think the adjustment was a little bit that he had to get used to it. It's given him an opportunity to do that. And I really think, too, I think that Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, Nick Sheridan have been really good for him. I think they've done a fantastic job of building his confidence. You talk to people, Gary, that have been at the scrimmages, been at the practices, that played the game, and they say the same thing. The jump he has made from the end of spring to where they've seen him in camp has been pretty significant. So I think all of those things together give me a lot of confidence that Ty's going to have a really good year.
Yeah, and he's got some really talented wide receivers. Ryan Williams, Mr. Electricity. Jeremy Bernard, great route runner. Solid. Reminds me a lot of John Metchie. He really does. And then Isaiah Horton comes in, who gives you that 50-50 throw it up and catch it type of guy. So the wide receivers are there. Ronnie, you will be without your starting running back, Jam Miller, for the season opener, and probably for a couple of games.
Well, and you got some guys that were really highly recruited that should be able to step up. I mean, Richard Young was a 5-star rated player out of Lehigh Acres, Florida. There you see him, number 9. I think Daniel Hill, everything we hear, has had a fantastic camp. Daniel's a 240-pound sledgehammer. We've talked about him, but he's got a lot of movement to him. Look at his feet there. Catches the ball extremely well. You've got some other guys, Dre Washington, the transfer from Louisiana, who has more experience than any of the other guys besides Jam, of course. But A.K. Deere, a true freshman, Kevin Riley, the local kid. So they've got guys. It's just a matter of getting them some carries.
Who do you think gets the start at running back?
You know, if I had to guess, I would say Richard Young, but I think it's going to be a rotation, and I think you'll see Daniel Hill. And again, he could start. We'll see. But I think you'll see a rotation of 2 or 3 guys.
All right, we know Jam Miller's out. I think you and I both expected that Jaden Roberts would be back. I guess this injuries kind of lingered, and now it looks like he may be out at right guard as well.
Yeah, I think, Gary, without getting too specific, because I don't know if anything's officially been released on what it is, I think that reoccurring injuries have kind of put him in a position that you want to be really careful in this situation. And again, they may have mentioned exactly what it is. I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
And I don't want to say because but I do think he's had some reoccurring issues.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that when he comes back, he's 100% ready to go. I guess Vandermark will plug in there at right guard.
You would think so. Again, that's we've talked about Geno Vandermark so much. Having that guy, the swing guy that can play left guard, can play right guard, can play center, and do it all pretty well. So yeah, you would think Geno Vandermark.
All right, real quick thought on the defense before we get to coach talk. Damani Jackson has been limited. What's his status in the secondary for the game?
Yeah, I mean, again, based on everything I've heard, I think Damani plays. Okay. Maybe he starts. We know that Dijon Lee, the true freshman, has gotten a lot of reps with the ones, so we'll see.
I know this defensive line, I think, has I think they understand that some people feel like maybe they have not lived up to expectations the last couple of years. They seem like they have a chip on their shoulder, particularly toward Castellanos, the quarterback. I mean, Overton said today, hey, man, disrespect will be addressed on Saturday. They've got talent, they've got size, they've got experience. This defensive line, do you think it's primed to have a huge year?
Well, I hope so. I really do. I think when you look at Tim Keenan in the middle, I think he may be the leader of that defense. I mean, the heart and soul. You mentioned Overton. He could have a huge year. And again, James Smith, he may be the guy that is a real difference maker up front. Behind that, they've got a lot of young talent, Gary. And it's going to be really important for those guys to step up.
All right, Rodney, it's now time for Coach Talk. And, you know, Alabama's played a lot of neutral site opening games, but this Saturday's game at Florida State is Alabama's first true road game to open a season. I hate to even say this, Rodney, since 2000. That's when Mike DeBoer and the Crimson Tide, what were they ranked? Three in the country, went out to UCLA and got whipped, and that season never recovered. Now, listen, that's 25 years ago, but it is worth mentioning since it was the last true road game to open a season. But here's Kalen DeBoer now talking about Doak Campbell Stadium, the tough atmosphere they're going to face, the rowdy fans, and he said, you know what? You got to go in there and you got to come out swinging.
I think starting fast, right? You got to start fast. You dig yourself a hole on the road. It gets hard. The crowd gets behind the home team, and you know, that comes down to execution, which comes down to preparation and the work that's happening on the football field. You know, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's the same old thing, but you know, starting fast and giving yourself, you know, not that you don't have the belief, but like another level of like momentum.
All right, come out, swing the first punch, and connect. That's what you want to do on the road. Rodney, Alabama announcing that Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, will be the only full-time assistant coach in the press box. One coach. Now, there'll be analysts and GAs. There'll be other people in the press box, so let's be clear on that. But last year they only had two full-time assistants, Colin Hitchner and Nick Sheridan. But still, this is unusual. I don't know that I've ever heard of a coaching staff only having one full-time assistant coach in the press box.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit different, too. Now, they tell me on TiderInsider.com that it's really not. But, you know, listen, Ryan Grubb said this is the way he did it at Washington. And a lot of these analysts that you have, Gary, and I think you mentioned that no defensive eyes in terms of assistant coaches will obviously be up there because you only have one, and that's Grubb. But, you know, Gary, you have a lot of analysts up there that have a ton of experience. So, I mean, it's not like you don't have other people with input.
Yeah, I'm told. I checked around a little bit. A couple of people that I know said, listen, Kalen DeBoer wants his assistant coaches on the field for the most part, other than Ryan Grubb, so that they can be right there with the players. They can call them over, they can make adjustments, and like you said, they're going to have plenty of eyes in the press box to send down the information that they need. All right, Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite in this game. Let's dive into Florida State, Rodney. You've done the deep dive. We discussed it on our podcast with Wallace Gilberry and Andre Smith last night, Inside the Trenches. Talked about it on my radio show. 50 new players, 2 new coordinators, new starters all over the field. Of course, when you were 2-10 a year ago, that's probably a good thing, but it's really hard to gauge what their football team is going to look like.
You know, last year they had a lot of new faces, and it went south. You mentioned 2-10, but listen, I think when you look at they brought in a lot of really good talent. I mean, they're possibly going to start 4 transfer offensive linemen. It's really hard to mesh. You know, you haven't played together in a game, so it makes it really tough. Then you have a new quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, who is a transfer. And don't forget, he originally played with Malzahn down at Central Florida before he went to D.C.
And he has not been shy about
he's talked
they're going to give Alabama all they want.
Yeah, he's talked a big game. And they've got some transfer receivers that are really good. Deuce Robinson, 6'6".
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to be a matchup.
Listen, he was a big-time recruit.
Yeah, he was. Alabama recruited him.
Rodney, some former Bama players, too, will be taking the field.
Yep. Roydell may start. We'll see Roydell Williams. But I know they've got some other backs that they're really high on. And then Earl Little Jr. At the rover position. So there are a lot of new faces at Florida State.
All right, and you know what comes up later in the show, since it is game week, our predictions. And Rodney and I, we don't discuss our predictions, but listen, they stir a lot of people up. And I said earlier today, I don't pick against Alabama very often. When I do, boy, I hear about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be picking against them, I will tell you that. But we'll have our score predictions coming up later on. Plus, coming up next, already fallout from the SEC going to a 9-game schedule next week. Alabama's already tweaking the schedule beginning next season. We'll tell you about that. And Alabama women's volleyball is gearing up for the 2020 2025-2026 season. What do we expect from the Crimson Tide? Well, they're going to be hosting a big tournament. And a little bit later on, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. We expect the phone lines to be active. We've already, I think, had 3 or 4 emails that came in today. 205-348-WVUA. 348-9882 is the number. TITV@WVUA23.com is the email address. And we'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. All right, if you were looking forward to Rich Rod coming to Bryant-Denny Stadium, remember Rich Rodriguez almost hired as Alabama's coach back in the day, turned it down, and that, of course, led to Nick Saban, so it all worked out. But he's coaching West Virginia now, but that series, 26 and 27 in Morgantown in 26, and then in Tuscaloosa 2027, canceled. Agreement by both schools due to the fact that the SEC is moving to a 9-game schedule. So Alabama will now play East Carolina on September 5th, 2026, as well as South Florida on September 12th and Florida State on September 19th. Rodney, as we welcome you back into TITV, listen, that's just the way it's going to have to be. Yeah. If you're going to play 9 conference games, you have to really manage your non-conference schedule.
You do. I mean, I think they have games coming up with Ohio State, maybe even Notre Dame. I mean, that's a very demanding schedule.
All right, so the SEC going to a 9-game conference schedule, Rodney. This is something that had been brewing for a while, had been talked about, but the current 8-game format had been in place since 1992. Of course, I remember when there were only 6 conference games back in the day, but what do you think about it? I mean, this is being done, I think, for big picture in terms of the college football playoff possibly expanding. I think Nick Saban initially had been a favor in favor when he was coaching of a 9-game schedule. Then he pulled those comments back and wanted to stay at 8. What do you think about going to 9?
Well, I mean, I thought it was inevitable. I thought it was going to happen. It was a matter of when, not if. And so I'm not really surprised. I think the permanent opponents, and I don't even know if they've decided what they're going to do in terms of the number of permanent opponents.
It's going to be 3.
3, okay.
Well, it's going to be Auburn and Tennessee for sure. And I think most people expect LSU. I would like to see Mississippi State. That's Alabama's longest rival. They don't play them every year anymore. It's 65 miles around the road. And plus, I'll be honest with you, if you're Alabama, I know the LSU game's important, but if you're playing at LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn every year, those are 3 teams that it's season makers for them when they beat Alabama.
Yeah. No, I mean, no doubt. I mean, I think you're right. I think it will be Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. I'd be surprised if it's not.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. One more season, though, with 8 games, and then in 2026, they go to the 9-game conference schedule. All right, let's move on and talk some Bama volleyball. They're going to get the season started this week with the Crimson Tide Invitational. The Tide will host UNC Asheville and Jacksonville State on Friday at 12:30 and 7 p.m., followed by UAB on Saturday at 3 p.m. Alabama started undefeated at the Crimson Tide Invitational last season, but ended up 11-16. They're still kind of in a rebuilding mode, but they've added a lot of talent, added a new assistant coach, Ray Lewis, in the offseason. Head coach Rashenda Reed is entering her 4th year at Alabama, and I think she feels like this is a team maybe that will really improve Alabama volleyball. It's a tough league, though, in the SEC, right? Just like it is in every sport.
Everything.
Yeah. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television. Find out which Alabama players got traded and released from NFL rosters as we get closer to the regular season. Bama in the NFL update. And coming up next, we'll welcome your phone calls, emails, and tweets. If you want to tweet at us, just use the hashtag TITV. But we're going to come out with phone calls. 205-348-9882 is that number. If you want to call in and give us your opinion on this big game coming up Saturday in Tallahassee, by all means do it. Phone calls when we return to Tider Insider Television. Bama in the NFL update. John Metchie joining the Eagles. Philadelphia traded for him, another Bama guy with Philadelphia. It's like 10. Of course, the Houston Texans got a lot of Bama guys as well, but I think it's a good situation for Metchie there with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. Running back Brian Robinson. They liked him a lot in Washington. He was the Commanders' leading rusher the last 3 years, but in the final year of a rookie deal, I guess they decided, they didn't want to pay him the big money next year, so they traded him to the 49ers, where he will back up McCaffrey. But McCaffrey's been injury-prone, plus will be a nice change of pace back. Amari Cooper's been around the block a few times now, but he's going back to the team where it all started. The Raiders drafted him in the first round of the 2015 NFL draft when they were in Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas, and he is a Raider once more. Former Alabama players that were released. James Burnett lost a close competition for punter in New Orleans. Jalen Armour Davis, that surprised me, got to go by the Ravens. He had a really good camp. Tight end C.J. Dupree released by the Patriots. Eli Ricks dropped by the Eagles, and defensive back Tony Brown released as well. All right, welcome back into TITV, and I can tell you that, believe it or not, phone lines are open, I'm told. 205-348-9882. I can't believe they're open. But what we're going to do in the meantime, let's go ahead and do our email question of the day. Our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Services. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, serving your family like our family. Who will be returning kickoffs and punts for Bama this season? Also, who will be the kicker? That's from Jamie in Haleyville.
You know what? As far as who's going to return, you got a lot of guys. I mean, Jeremy Bernard has returned punts. He's returned kicks. He's, Brian Williams, Jalen Mbakwe. We could go on and on and on. Who knows? Freshman Latsier Brooks, you might see him. There's a lot of guys that are capable, doing it very dynamic. As far as the place kicker, Connor Talty, who was highly recruited about 3 years ago. Now he's a redshirt sophomore. So hopefully Connor can find that consistency.
All right, let's get another email. So phone lines, I'm told, are still not ringing. What's going on? It's game week. All right, this is for Jim in Sparks, Nevada. Jim, one of our great viewers out there in Nevada. Shout out to the Women's Adapted Athletics basketball team for its 5th straight national championship. Adaptive tennis is one as well. Yeah, Jim, listen, I appreciate you calling in because the adaptive athletics program here at Alabama is one of the best in the country. It is one of the best, right? And they win national championships, it seems like, in men's basketball and women's basketball regularly. Now they've integrated a lot of other sports, rowing, tennis, and they don't take it lightly.
No,
congratulations.
A lot
to
of
them.
success.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to get to a break here on the show. Still to come, though, on TITV, Alabama women's soccer is hot to start the season. And listen, the phone lines are not lighting up. And I hate to just say this, but I'm shocked. 205-348-WVOA is that number. I'll call on the break, make sure the phone lines are working. But give us a ring. We'll be right back with Tider Insider TV, as Rodney said, going on its 26th year here on WVOA 23. Stay with us. Alabama women's soccer, we know just a few seasons ago they made it all the way to the National Championship Final Four. They got a good team this year. They beat Michigan 3-1. Michigan's got a really good program. They went to Sanford and won that one. They're unbeaten, Rodney, and they'll host Mercer on Friday night at 7 p.m. here in Tuscaloosa. All right, we're going to get to the phone lines, and William from Gadsden over in Etowah County is going to lead us off tonight. A lot of Bama fans over there. Hey, William, good evening. William, you with us? Did we lose William? Okay, do we know what he wanted to ask? Okay, well, wants to know about the punter. I think we already...
Yeah, well, I think right now Blake Dowd is probably the Colorado School of Mines transfer. I think it's probably him. Of course, Alex Asperoff's really good, talented young punter, freshman coming in from Fresno, California. All right, sorry we lost it. We're also looking forward to going over to Gadsden in Etowah County. All right, let's get to an email question. Has Coach DeBoer named a backup quarterback yet? That's from Laura in Gardendale, and the answer is no. And the expectation, based on what the coach has said, is that he will not. In other words, they'll go into that game with Ty Simpson as the starter, and if they go to another quarterback, I guess we'll find out who the backup is. We will. And, Gary, a lot of people ask you to speculate on that. They probably ask you on your radio show and on TiderInsider.com. If I had to speculate, if they went to the next guy, I think it would be Austin Mack. Now, again, would they eventually go to Keelan Russell? I mean, I think that's possible too, but I would think right now Austin Mack. All right, I'd like to get a phone call in, 205-348-9882. In the meantime, we have one more email question that we can cover, and we've already kind of covered this one to some degree. I think it's obvious. This is from Gadsden as well with Barry, but I guess it's a fair question with Nick Sheridan's still on the staff. Will Ryan Grubb call the plays? Yes, that is the plan. He'll be in the press box, and he will be the play caller. He's the play caller. Yeah. So now listen, with Nick Sheridan on the sideline and Kalen DeBoer being an offensive coach, we know how it works these days. There is certainly input that I'm sure he's going to take from them. And he might even say, Nick, what do you like in this situation? Or Coach Grubb. But he has the final say. That's his job. That's what he's here to do. Yep, that's what he's always done. Did a fantastic job at Washington. All right. Well, we got a lot of great emails that we got on anyway. Hey, we didn't get some phone calls. We had one that went dead on us, but that's okay. Still to come on TITV. You know what it is. Our first game picks of the season. What are we going to say? Who do we like? I think you know who we're going to pick to win the game. I don't think we're going to shock anybody there, but what will the scores be? We will find out when we come back. Prediction time. Game number 1. Tider Insider Television. Stay with us.
All right, it's that time, and I know you're bored. I love picking scores. People really pay attention to this, Rodney. As always, you lead us off. Alabama, Florida State, the Tide's a 13.5-point favorite.
Well, you know, Gary, we've talked quite a bit about the Alabama not losing players in the portal and Florida State having to go to the portal to get players. I think when you look at the consistency, the continuity that Alabama has, look, I just don't know how Florida State can mesh together so quickly. I think Alabama wins this game 30-17.
All right, let's throw your prediction up there. Yeah, or actually, you're 30-13.
30-13,
what you do, okay? Because we go and put those things in advance. Listen, I'm right along your same line of thinking. I tell you what, Ronnie, what I believe in this game is I believe that Alabama's going to have to wear Florida State down. I think the emotion, the energy that the Seminoles are going to play with early is going to keep them in this game. I do ultimately think Alabama is too much for them, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a blowout. But I see a tough game into the fourth quarter. But I've got Alabama winning it, very similar to Rodney, 27-13. I've got the Tide. And actually, if it's 13.5, that is a cover, but it's certainly not a blowout. We'll find out on Saturday afternoon. All right, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. A reminder, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 following the news at 10 on WVUA 23 or online anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you tonight with the 2025 University Church of Christ men's pigskin kickoff, which took place on Monday night at the Tuscaloosa River Market, featuring the great legend Sylvester Croom, College Football Hall of Famer, first African-American coach ever in the SEC at Mississippi State. He spoke and did an incredible job. Also, Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback and current color analyst for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, was on hand as well. It was a great event last night in Tuscaloosa. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night, and we will talk to you again next Tuesday night.